Hello, my name is Kevin Lindsey. I'm a principal hydrogeologist with GeoEngineers. Today we're going to talk about the City of West Richland's Managed Aquifer Recharge effort, the focus of which has been to displace a poor quality native groundwater with a higher quality treated potable water supply. Project team includes myself, Phil Brown, the project lead, Alicia Candelaria and John Travis with GeoEngineers, Brad Bessinger with SS Papadopoulos providing water quality support analysis, and then the lead engineer, Alex Azari at JUB Engineers. City leads, Julie West and Roscoe Slade, the people that need this project, want this project, and who we're working for on this project. Funding for the project actually was provided by the Washington Department of Ecology, Office of Columbia River. The mandate of OCR is to find, support water supply solutions in the Columbia River Basin portion of Washington State. Location map for our project. We're in the northwest states of Washington, Oregon, Idaho. We're actually right here. There's Idaho or Washington. West Richland is right here, basically in the middle of this big green blob. The green blob is actually the extent of the USGS designated Columbia Plateau Aquifer system. And within that system, or this aquifer system, is essentially delineated by highlands of the Cascade volcano mountain ranges to the west, Okanagan Highlands to the north, Rocky Mountains of northern Idaho to the east, and then the Blue Mountains here to the south. Basically a large intermontane basin situated between these highland mountain ranges. See a lot of blue lines coming across this region. Those are major river systems, all of which are essentially fed by the melting of winter snowpack and feeding rivers that drain across the region into the Columbia River, which comes out of Canada through our region here and on through Cascades and out to the Pacific Ocean out here. This is a snowpack-driven hydrologic system. And then the Columbia River Plateau Aquifer System right here is a large regional aquifer system found within the Columbia River Flood Basalt group, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a few minutes. So why MAR? In this photograph, looking down on the city of West Richland here, and the city of Richland in the distance, and further out yet, Columbia River here, the city of West Richland is a primarily groundwater supplied municipality. That's the source of drinking water for the city. That aquifer system, however, is experiencing level declines and diminished production, in part because the area you see here in the foreground 20 years ago was pasture, small farm, and shrub steppe, just like the grasslands, the shrub steppe, typical for areas you see right in the foreground right here. So a low water demand setting being replaced by this, a lot of green, a lot of suburban irrigation water supply needing to be met. Coupled with that, several wells in West Richland, including this well 10, which will be where we focus, which is located right at this road right here. Several of the city of West Richland's wells have sulfide, taste, odor, iron problems, and in the case of well 10, those problems were so bad that it went from a production well to a standby or emergency supply well only because of the inability to supply that pretty bad, nasty, low-quality water to the city service system. That decline, coupled with growth, coupled with marginal water supply, is then coupled with, even though we have a river right here, legal availability of that water when the city needs it, which is in the summer high demand period, is very limited. And actually, currently, it's not available for the city of West Richland. So throw all of those together, that's why we need MAR. Looking at a map, here's Candy Mountain where that photo was taken. Here's the Columbia River that photo was looking towards. Westland outlined here, city of Richland right here. Project basics for this effort are basically using the city of Richland's Columbia River diversion point, located somewhere in here, is tie into that system and deliver some of Richland's potable water, Columbia River treated potable water, through an existing pipeline into West Richland and actually into well 10 right here. Inject that water at well 10, displace the poor quality groundwater at well 10 with this high quality potable treated water, and in those peak demand periods recover it. There is available water in the winter, spring runoff period. That's the water that West Richland would access through this pipeline, through this treatment system, which they already have agreements to use Richland, and then inject it in well 10 in that off-peak demand period and recover it during the peak demand period. Looking at the hydrogeology region, Columbia River Plateau Aquifer System is essentially made up of a bunch of planar tabular layers of basalt and occasionally sediments, where the basalt consists of alternating layers of dense basalt flow interior and rubbly vesicular, what was referred to as interflow zone basalts, basically the tops and bottoms of basalt flows. And then again, another layer of dense basalt rock. These dense basalt rocks are very low permeability to essentially no permeability, especially from a well production point of view. These interflow zones where the vesicular rubbly rock lay, and in some cases where sand and gravel lie, those are the productive zones. So essentially we have a stacks of alternating dense low permeability rock, vesicular rubbly sand and gravelly rock, high permeability, another low permeability, and another dense permeability layer. Essentially these layers, these dense layers, are tens of meters, hundreds of feet thick, alternating with a few meters, a few tens of meters at the most of these permeable rocks, stacked again, one atop another. Just zooming in a little bit, this is an east-west cross-section through the West Richland area, showing this basic layering. Candy Mountain again, Columbia River over here again, so that photograph was looking out across all of this to the Columbia River. Well 10 graphically shown right here, penetrating several of the flow layers present in our area, and actually its production zone is right at the base of this brown colored layer right here. So we're working with this layered basalt aquifer system, which generally in the region has very good water quality, except historically at well 10. Finally, we have folds and faults present, these zones here. You can see faults over here as well. The hill that we're on at West Richland are structures, are folds defined by faults that have some effect on the aquifer system in this area, which we'll talk a little bit about more later. So the project, phase 1, physical conditions. What does water quality look like? Parenthetically, that's interesting. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then phase 2 is to test the hydrogeologic and hydrogeochemical aspects of this system. That led to a redirect. And finally, phase 3 and 4, build out an operation. So that's the project in the settings that I've introduced prior to this. So phase 1, water quality in the well. Again, the objective was to check the well and see, is it in good shape? Can we use it for injection recovery pumping? And does it require cleaning, or is it totally unacceptable? We found through that work that here's the pump bowls that were recovered from the well. Even though they're crusty, they're not bad. They actually are in very good shape. And with minimal rehab and cleaning and conditioning, the well is very, very conducive to ASR from a physical well construction point of view. Also looking at the water quality through some very short tests just to see what that water quality is. That's where we found that's interesting thing, because the water quality reported 10 years ago is not at all like the water quality we found in these short tests today. That was to phase 2, test the aquifer, which through a standard high capacity multi-day pumping test, we wanted to see what the aquifer response looked like. A good aquifer, we know the well is good, find out if the aquifer is good. Need to confirm that phase 1 water quality, because that took us down the that's interesting road. And then finally through pumping at well 10, observing at other wells in the area. Are these waters compatible? Is the source water compatible with the groundwater? Is the source water compatible with the aquifer matrix itself? So that phase 2 testing took us to a redirect because, well, as we'll discuss now, the aquifer response, first off, it worked. All the hydraulics, and we could show you multiple graphs and hydrographs and plots. The hydraulics is good. This well, this aquifer will work. The water quality was confirmed through multiple day testing and multiple samples. This well is significant. The water quality in this well has changed significantly from when it was originally tested 10 years ago. So we now know we don't have to displace bad water, if you will, with clean water. We found that out through this testing. Compatibility issues do not appear to be present. Groundwater and source water are compatible. Source water is compatible with the aquifer matrix material. This should work. All indicators are this should work. And without the need to displace this odd pre-existing water quality, redirect time has arrived. Where is this project going next? Going next, it's basically going towards a more traditional Columbia Basin municipal ASR project where we'll use available water in winter spring, inject it into an aquifer, recover it at peak demand, and multiple projects similar to this in the same rocks using the same types of source water have been successful, and we don't anticipate a significant problem here either. So we've gone from having to displace this crummy water, this bad water. We don't have to displace it anymore because it appears not to be present. And we're going into a more classic, let's rebuild the well, let's rebuild the control system, let's rebuild the downhole valving and go forward with a classic Pacific Northwest Muni ASR project. So to wrap up, looking down again on West Richland, although it didn't make for nearly exciting talk that we were hoping for in our analysis of bad water quality and good water quality and mixing and displacement, City of West Richland's happy because we don't have to worry about that now. This project has evolved from that project that we wrote in the abstract to one that is pretty much a classic municipal ASR project. The city still needs the water supply. It still has this growth. It still has this demand. It still has limited access to the river in the background. So it still needs to get water from Richland, pump it across country through the pipeline, deliver it up to this well, get it in the ground when they have access and the water is available off the Columbia, get it in the ground, store it, still have good quality when it comes out again in the summer in the peak demand period, and get it delivered to city patrons. So that's the wrap up. We went from having to deal with bad water to now we're just dealing with good water, and we have to get a thing online, in operation, and moving forward. Thank you for your time.